Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the today's section. Yes, we have in the yesterday we have seen LU decomposition of a metric, and the application of one of the application of LU decomposition also we have seen. That is finding the solution for a system of linear equations, square system of linear equations, for under some conditions. The LU decomposition is not possible for every metric. Okay. We have seen what are the required things, what are the sufficient conditions that a metric can be factorized as a product of lower triangular metric and upper triangular metric. Now today we are going to see now what is the basic advantage of LU decomposition. Suppose if we have a system of linear equations, say Ax is equal to B, Ax is equal to B, A is a square system, then so far we have seen Gaussian elimination method, Gauss-Jordan method to find the solution for the system. Where the Gaussian elimination method or the Gauss-Jordan method, which is basically saying converting the transforming the augmented metric to echelon form or to the row canonical form. Okay, in which the constant metric B is also a part of it from the very first step of the methods. Okay, echelon form or row canonical form. So in these methods, finding the constant metric B is also a part of the method from the very first step. Whereas for finding the solution of this system using the LU decomposition, we are not worrying about what is B. Initially, we are worrying about what is the factorization for A. So once the factorization is done, this is the main step actually. This is the main step. This is the step 1. Then after the factorization, then we are assuming that u into x is equal to b, u into x is equal to y. Here ux is equal to y. So from this step onwards, we are using the constant metric b. Okay. So this idea basically says, now irrespective of this constant metric, the first step is common. If the coefficient metric is A, we don't need to worry about what is B actually in the first step. All right. So this gives you an idea to give what is the additional advantage of this LU decomposition method. That is, for example, we are working in some problem and initially we need to solve this system Ax is equal to B. Suppose if you use this elimination echelon form or row canonical form, okay, you will use it and you assume that you will find the solution after finite number of steps. But later, with the help in the same problem, in the same practical problem, suppose you need to solve the system Ax is equal to B1 where the coefficient metric is same but the constant metric changes. Then what you need to do? Suppose earlier you have used the echelon form or the row canonical form. Then again you need to use the echelon form and the row canonical form starting from the very first step by changing the constant metric B1. Suppose maybe in the same problem Ax is equal to B2. Suppose you need to solve the another system where the coefficient metric is same but the constant metric changes. Then what you need to do? Again, you need to solve the echelon form elimination method starting from the very first step by replacing the constant metric B with the B2. So there may be some problems where you need to change, where you need to solve a system of linear equations number of times, in which the coefficient metric does not change, the coefficient metric is same, whereas the constant metric will change every time. So the disadvantage of this echelon method or the row canonical method, row canonical form is whenever the constant metric changes, you need to start again from the first step. But if you use the LU decomposition method, assume that the first step is done, LU is equal to B, A is equal to L into U. Then if it changes here, then L into U X is equal to B. From the second step onwards, only it is enough. And not only it is enough, in fact, yesterday we have seen from the second step and the third step, it is basically either the forward substitution or the backward substitution. And which are very easy to calculate and which are very easy to evaluate the solution, find the solution. Okay. Suppose in the same problem, if there is a situation where you need to find the solution for the system with the constant metric B1, no need to worry, we have already the decomposition. The decomposition is already done. So there is no need to repeat this step. So L into X, Ux is equal to B1. Now it is enough to solve this system, which is again a forward substitution and the backward substitution, which is also easy to evaluate. Calculations, number of calculations are also less. So it will take a less number of time, and it is easy to handle also. Okay, so this is one situation where you can work with the LU decomposition technique method. Okay, and another application is using the LU decomposition, we can also find the inverse of a square metric. Inverse of a square metric, also we can do it. Yes, we have already discussed on what is this inverse, we will see it now. Suppose assume that A is an n by n square metric, and assume that it has a LU decomposition, and that is given by L into U. Okay. Now, if you have the LU decomposition, then how to find the inverse of the metric A? Inverse of the metric A we have evaluated using the elimination processes also. Gaussian elimination, Jordan elimination also we have evaluated. But using the LU method, LU factorization, how to find the inverse? Okay. So the inverse of a metric is simply nothing but we need to solve three different systems of equations where the coefficient metric is same. Ax is equal to B1, not three, n different systems. Ax is equal to B2 and Ax is equal to B3 and so on. Ax is equal to Bn. What is happening? I have given n systems of linear equations. This is one system, this is another system, this is another system, where the coefficient metric is same, but the constant metric differs, B1, B2, B3, Bn. But here, what is Bi, the constant metric? Bi is actually 0, 0, and so on, 1, and so on, 0, 0. It is a column metric of order n by 1, where only one entry is non-zero, that is 1, and that occurs at the ith position. For example, B1 means 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, and so on. B2 means 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, and so on. B3 means 0, 0, 1, and so on. The remaining all the elements are 0. Okay. Now this is one system. Assume that x1 is the solution for this system, and x2 is the solution for when the constant metric is B2. And assume that x3 is the solution for when the constant metric is B3. And assume that xn is the solution for the when the constant metric is Bn. Now, A inverse can be given by, it is nothing but the columns. A inverse is a metric in which the columns are nothing but x1, x2, and so on, xn. Remember, x1 is not an element, x1 is a column metric. So it is a column metric of order n by 1. It is also a column metric of order n by 1. xn is also a column metric of order n by 1. And hence the entire metric of order will obviously n by n. So this is how we can find the inverse of a metric. Okay. So you may ask, sir, suppose if A is equal to L into U, then A inverse can also be evaluated using the A inverse is equal to U inverse times L inverse. Of course, we can do it. But let me tell you, for evaluating the inverse of a metric with the standard method, what is the standard? The fundamental method. The fundamental method is A inverse is equal to 1 by determinant of A times adjoint of A. Right? 1 by determinant of A times adjoint of A. So this is the fundamental way, but let me tell you, the cost is too much. The number of calculations is too much. If you use the fundamental technique. So for finding the inverse of a metric, LU decomposition is a standard method. It is also one of the standard method where once you have the LU decomposition, you can solve any system with the coefficient metric as A. You can also find the inverse. So these two things are possible once you have the LU decomposition. For example, let me take A is equal to a metric. So what is the metric? Let me consider the metric A is equal to 2 minus 1 3, 2 minus 1 3, 1 minus 2 1, 2 minus 4 1, 2 minus 4 1. Now I am interested in finding the A inverse using the LU decomposition technique. First thing, we should know what is the LU decomposition. So as I'm directly writing what is L and what is U, but so L into U should be like this. Okay. Yes, you know, we are using the Dolittle's method. So the lower triangular metric will be unit lower triangular metric. As you know, in the upper triangular metric, the first column is same. Okay, this is the. Now we need to find out what basically we need to do. We need to make this entry as 0, this entry is 0. So how it will be, how it is possible? It is possible minus 1 by 2 times R1 plus R2 replaces R2. It is the standard way of row elementary operations. Do not do this multiplication, this one like R1 minus 2 times R2 replaces R2. It is not the standard way. Okay, it is not the standard way, and in many methods, if you use this kind of row operations, you will not get the solution. Okay, so anyway, fine. So what actually it is happening? So yeah, now minus 1 by 2 times R1 plus R2, so it becomes 0. Since the coefficient is minus 1 by 2 here, so in the lower triangular metric, this entry will be negative of that one. So that is 1 by 2. Now what about the remaining terms here? So minus 1 by 2 minus 1. So 1 by 2, 1 by 2 minus 2 minus 3 by 2. And then minus 1 by 2 3 minus 3 by 2 minus 3 by 2 plus 1. So minus 1 by 2. Okay. Now we need to make this one also 0. So now the only thing is we need to multiply minus 1 times R1 plus R3 replaces R3. Thus, what will be having? What will be the here the entry? The entry will be the multiplier is minus 1, and hence the negative is 1. Not this one. Now what will happen here? Here basically you will get 0, right? Minus into minus plus plus minus 3, so minus 4, so that is minus 3, and minus 3 plus 1, so that is minus 2. Okay, still this needs to be found out. Okay, so I'm using this technique only for explaining, but when you are solving, you need to evaluate each and every step. Remember that. So 2 minus 1, 3, 0 minus 3 by 2 minus 1 by 2. And then now what we need to make? We need to make this as 0 with the help of the second pivot entry. So how to do this one? It is as simple as that. Minus 2 times R2 plus R3, 3 places R3. Thus, you will get 0 here. Since the coefficient is minus 2, so the negative is here 2. And what about this one? Minus 2 times minus 1 by 2. So that is minus into minus plus 1. Plus 1 minus 2. So that is minus 1. Okay. So now we have the LU decomposition. Yes, it is there. Now what we need to find out? We need to find out the A inverse. How to find out the A inverse? We need to consider 3 systems because n is equal to 3 here. B1, we need to find out AX is equal to B2 and AX is equal to B3. What is B1? B1 is 1 at the first entry, remaining is 0. What is B2? B2 is 0, 1, 0. And what is B3? B3 is 0, 0, 1. Okay. Now I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes. Each one give me what is x1 and what is x2, where x2 is the solution for this system and x1 is the solution for this system and x3 is the solution for this system. Use the LU decomposition technique, forward and forward method, forward substitution and the backward substitution, and give me what is x1, x2 and x3. Everyone, please start. Please do it. Roll numbers from 1 to 30. Find out x1. Roll numbers from 1 to 20. Find out x1. Roll numbers from oh, you people are, what is the roll number till I think 120, 130 is there, right? 137. Okay, roll numbers from 1 to 40, find x1. 41 to 80, find x2. And those who are from 81 onwards, find x3. Make it fast. L is there, U is there. What you need to solve? Only this. You need to solve only one system. 2 or 3 systems you need to solve. Abhishek, x1 is 2 by 3, 1 by 3 is 0, right? 2 by 3, 1 by 3, 0. That's correct. Come on, x1, x2 also. Make it fast. What is x2 and what is x3? X3 is 5 by 3, 1 by 3 minus 1. Yes, right. Five by 3, 1 by 3 minus 1. Five by 3, 1 by 3 minus 1. X2 is minus 11 by 3 minus 4 by 3, 2. Yes, that is also correct, Abhishek. Thank you. So that is minus 11 by 3 minus 4 by 3, 2. Okay. So now once we have evaluated these three systems, now A inverse can be, we can directly write minus 11 by 3 minus 4 by 3, 2. X1 in the first column, X2 in the second column, X3 in the third column. Okay. So this is the A inverse. But before that, before going to the system, actually, before going to this one, now after evaluating the LU decomposition, can anyone say what is the determinant of A? Can anyone say what's the determinant of A? Determinant of L into determinant of LU. A is nothing but LU. So that is determinant of L into determinant of U. L is lower triangular metric. All its principal diagonal elements are 1, and hence the determinant of L is 1. U is an upper triangular metric. The determinant of the upper triangular metric is product of the diagonal entries, and hence the determinant is again, sorry, not again, it is 3. 2 into minus 3 by 2 minus 3 minus 3 into minus 1, 3, and hence the determinant is 3. That is a non-zero number. That is a non-zero number. Okay, fine. Which basically means that you can find out the inverse. Okay, so this is also an application. This can also be given as an application of LU factorization. Now we are going to see another concept. In this, the concept is again same. The main idea theme is same. What is the theme? We are going to find out the solution for a system of linear equations, but it's on another method. Okay. Now here, let me So there are actually, in finding the system of linear solution for a system of linear equations, there is one thing. The first one is called the direct methods. Direct methods. These direct methods are by transforming the coefficient, by transforming the augmented matrix to echelon form, row canonical form, and LU factorization method. LU factorization method. Okay. And there is second type is there. There are basically two types: direct methods and iterative methods. Direct methods we have already done. Now we are going to see what are the iterative methods for evaluating the system of solution for a system of linear equations. But in the iterative methods also, we need to consider the square systems where the number of variables and the number of equations given is there. They must be same, they must be equal. Square system of linear equations. Now, what is the basic advantage of advantages and disadvantages of iterative methods? We will see later. But let us first understand how the method goes. So, what actually iterative methods? The iterative methods start with something called initial guess. Let us represent with x naught. This is what we call the initial guess. Arbitrary. We will assume that some arbitrary set of elements will give you is the solution. Is an not the solution, is an approximate solution for the given system. Then, using some technique based and with the help of the initial guess, what we will find out? We will find out x1, the next approximative solution. First approximate solution. Now, again, using the technique and using the first approximate solution, then what we will find out? We will find out the second approximate solution. Second approximate solution. And this will continue like xk, the kth iteration. Kth approximate solution. Okay. Now, this is what we call the iterative methods. So, to find the kth approximate solution, what you should know what is the k minus 1 approximate solution. Okay. Now, this is generally this is the way, but how to find one approximate solution depending on the previous one. Depending on the previous one. So here is also there is the method. It depends on something called the formula for the method. Okay. For example, what I will do here, the kth, and let me tell you here what is x1, what is x0. Basically, what is x here? Xn is consisting of all the variables x1, x2, and so on xn. Now, what is x0? If I say that is each x0 means it is not a single value. It is a vector. So it is a vector means there are some n entries will be there. And similarly, suppose if I say x1, first approximate solution means it will have some another set of values. That is x11, x21, x12, and so on x1n, in which the prefix represents the iteration, number of iteration, and the suffix represents the variable. And what is xk? Xk means x prefix k means it is the kth iteration. So that is x in the kth iteration 1 and x kth iteration second variable and so on x kth iteration nth variable. Okay. Right. Now what is that formula? Basically, we will evaluate the xk plus 1, or maybe let me use xk here. And this is also fine. Xk plus 1 is equal to some h times xk plus some constant metric. Here k is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. What is h? Here h is an n by n metric called, this is called iteration metric. Iteration matrix. Okay. And what about C? C is a constant matrix. C is a constant matrix of order n by 1, column metric. Okay. This is what? This is a constant matrix. Right? Now, as you can see, H is fixed, C is also fixed. H is fixed and C is also fixed. Now, once you substitute k is equal to 0, if you substitute k is equal to 0, what you will get? Left hand side you will get x1, right hand side h times x0 plus c. X0 is our initial guess, so we will get what is called the first approximation. That is x1 we will get. That is x1 we will get. And when you substitute k is equal to 1, what you will get? Left hand side you will get x2 and right hand side h times x1 plus c. H1 we have already, x1 we have already evaluated in the previous step. So with the help of that one, we are going to evaluate what is called x2. So the number of iterations will continue, but how many iterations we should do? How many iterations? At what time we should stop the iteration process? But it is a kind of, as you can see, it is completely an algorithm oriented process. Now the algorithm should be terminated at some point of time, right? So what is that? So that is what we call the error tolerance. Okay, what we call the error tolerance. So epsilon. So what actually basically the iterative methods are not meant for the finding the exact solution, but the iterative methods, basically the main idea of the iteration methods is to get the approximate solution. Is to get the approximate solution for a given system of equations. Okay. So what is that? How do we decide that approximation? Approximation means already there is something called error will be there. Approximate solution and the exact solution. Now, how to define? How to calculate? Based on this epsilon, if the error tolerance is given as epsilon, then what is the criteria for stopping that algorithm? For terminating the algorithm. So the criteria is the norm of the kth iteration vector in the kth iteration solution minus k minus 1th approximate solution should be less than epsilon. Suppose at after evaluating the kth approximate solution, what you need to check? You need to check the difference between the kth approximate solution and k minus 1th approximate solution. Okay, generally k starts from 1, 2 and so on here. Okay, suppose if the norm is strictly less than epsilon, then what you can do? You can stop the procedure. Means you can terminate the algorithm. Why? Because I will bear this error. I will bear it. That is what I have given, error tolerance. I can tolerate this error. I don't mind. I don't have any problem. Okay. Now, what is this called? Suppose in the kth iteration, what we have? We have x, k, the first variable, and x, k, second, and so on, x, k, n, minus x, k minus 1, 1, and x, k minus 2, 2, and so on. Sorry, this is also 1. x k minus 1 n. Okay, so that is if you do it, what you will get here, each component subtract the do the subtraction, then what you will get here, first component is xk1 minus xk minus 1 1, second one is xk2 minus xk minus 1 2, and so on, nth one is xkn minus xk1 k minus 1 n. The absolute values, its absolute value, the first component, its absolute value should be less than epsilon. The second one also, it should be less than epsilon. The absolute difference between the respective solutions, the consecutive solutions, consecutive approximate solutions should be less than epsilon for every coordinate. That is, in one way, what we can say, the modulus of the kth iteration approximate solution for the ith variable in the kth iteration minus approximate solution for the ith variable in the k minus 1 iteration should be less than epsilon, and this should happen for all the variables I is equal to 1, 2, and so on n. Okay, suppose if it is happening, then what you can do, you can terminate the algorithm and you can say that this is the approximate solution I have. Okay, this is one way of terminating the procedure. So now this is the so far anyone have doubts? Please raise your hand if you have doubts. If you have any doubts regarding this one, anyone? Okay, fine. So now, okay, fine, that we will do it. We will terminate the solution. Now, whether the iterative methods at what point of depending on what the iterative methods converges. So basically, what it is? Suppose assume that x is the exact solution for the given system of linear equations. And in the iterative methods, what are the iterative methods? Suppose assume that xk is the kth approximate solution. Now we will say that the iterative method converges. The iterative method converges if it is a limiting process actually. Yes, you do the iterations infinitely many times and you check as k tends to infinity, the approximate solutions are, if suppose if it is converging to the exact solution, then in that case we will say that we can say that the iterative method converges. Suppose if it is not happening, we will say that the iterative method diverges. Okay. Now the problem is the iterative methods are not meant for to find the where there is a difficulty to find the exact solution. Where there is a difficulty to find the exact solution, there we are going to find the approximate solution. When the exact solution is not known, then what is the meaning of this one then? Okay, it is the idea. It is the what we meant by it converges. Suppose if we say that the iterative method converges, what it actually means? It actually means as you increase the number of iterations, it actually converges to the exact solution. Okay, and diverges means this is not going to happen. Now, what is the then how to decide? Because the exact solution is not known to us, but how to decide the method converges or not? It is completely depends on the iteration metric h. iteration metric H. So that is the iterative method converges basically. Suppose if the row of H is strictly less than 1 implies, not only implies, in fact, if and only if the iterative method converges. Iterative method converges. But what is this one actually? What is this meaning? What is this row of H? It is the maximum of modulus of lambda such that lambda is an eigenvalue of H. Lambda is an eigenvalue of H. This should be less than 1. That is the condition. Rho of H means it is basically given as the maximum of the absolute values of the eigenvalues of the metric H. Suppose if it is strictly less than 1, then what you can say the iterative method converges. Okay, and at what rate it converges, that I will explain separately. In fact, the rate of convergence I can for any method we can say it here also. So the rate of convergence for if this is the case, if it converges, then the rate of convergence is actually defined as rate of convergence is given to be minus log of spectral radius of the iteration metric to the base 10. To the base 10. This is the rate of convergence of the particular iterative method. Okay, so this is the basic abstract explanation for a iterative methods. Now, what basically in the iterative method, what is the crucial part? What is the main important thing? The main important thing is the iteration metric is the important one. Not even the constant C. The iterative metric is the important one. Okay. Now, if you change the different H, you will get the different iteration methods. It is not that but the H should be defined from the given system. Ax is equal to B. Suppose if I give, suppose H is equal to some arbitrary metric I took, for which the rank of the spectral radius is strictly less than 1. It doesn't have any meaning, right? So the H should be formulated with the help of the given system, and in given system we have two matrices A and B. So that is what we need to find out. We need to construct. Now, what we can do? So let me start with, before going to start the particular iterative method. So as you can see, suppose assume that A is an n by n square metric, then A can always be defined, always can be rewritten as a sum of three matrices: lower triangular metric, diagonal metric, upper triangular metric. What is this lower triangular metric? This is not the LDU decomposition what we have done in the previous section, or LU decomposition what we have done in the previous section. Remember, that is the product. It is simply the summation. Okay. Here L is strictly lower triangular metric. And what about U? U is strictly upper triangular matrix, right? And what about D? D is simply a diagonal metric. Right? Is it always possible? Of course, it is always possible. For example, you take this one. A11, A12, A21, and A22. What is the L plus D plus U composition separation here? 0, 0, 0, A21. This is strictly, by the way, what we meant by the strictly and strictly lower triangular and strictly upper triangular. Strictly lower triangular means it is a lower triangular metric in which the diagonal all the diagonal entries are 0. Strictly upper triangular metric means it is an upper triangular metric in which all the diagonal entries are 0. Plus, here for this particular problem, for this particular metric, see, this is a strictly lower triangular, the diagonal, and strictly upper triangular metric. For any metric, what we need to do, for any square metric, you no need to worry. Take the diagonal entries, write it. Only the diagonal entries, remaining all are 0. Now, what about the strictly? How do we get this one? So, from the subdiagonal entry, you need to consider this part. You need to consider this part, where this is the principal diagonal. For this metric, this is always 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And of course, the above the diagonal, it is always 0 because it is the lower triangular metric. Now, what about the upper triangular metric? Strictly upper triangular metric, the diagonal entries, it will be 0 every element. Of course, the below the diagonal entry, it is always 0. So now what about the upper part? So from the super diagonal, you need to consider this part. Okay. So this is what you will get it. Right. So this decomposition we can always do. And in the two methods, the two iterative methods, which we are going to discuss in the further sections, this LDU is necessary, and this lower triangular and diagonal and upper triangular, strictly upper triangular, these matrices will be used to define the what is the iterative metric of iteration. Okay, so that we are going to see tomorrow. But anyway, now the first iterative method which we are going to see is called Gauss-Jacobi iterative method. So what is this Gauss-Jacobi iteration method? Basically, suppose if we have a system of equations Ax is equal to B, as I can mention, as we have already seen, A can be written as L plus D plus U times X is equal to B. So now in the Gauss, what the Gauss-Jacobi iteration method does? So split this product, first do this multiplication, then keep only the diagonal product here, and remaining things you bring this side. Is it clear? L into X, this side. U into X, this side. D into X, this side. Now what we will do, X is equal to multiply both the sides with D inverse. So minus D inverse times L plus U times X is equal to, plus D inverse times B. Now, what we are going to find out, the iteration is defined as the k plus 1th iteration is given by minus D inverse times L plus U times kth iteration plus D inverse times B. This is the Jacobi method. Now, what is the iteration metric here? The iteration metric, this is the iteration metric, minus this is H. And what is this one? This is C, the constant metric. Okay. Now there is another method is also there, that is what we call the Gauss-Seidel iteration method. That is also similar to this one, but it is not exactly the same thing. Okay. But here you should understand what is this D. D is a diagonal element, diagonal metric. What are the entries? The entries are nothing but the diagonal entries of the metric A. Here what we are doing, D inverse we are doing, multiplying both the sets with the D inverse. Now the question is whether D inverse exists. Whether D inverse exists. D is the diagonal metric, that is A11, A22 and so on, ANN. Whether D inverse always exists, and what is the condition that is required for the existence of D inverse? Can anyone tell?
Diagonal element should not be zero, sir.
What is the condition for the existence of D inverse, where D is a diagonal metric? What is the determinant of a diagonal metric? What is the determinant of a diagonal metric? It is the product of the diagonal entries. The product should not be equal to 0. That is A11 times, A22 times, and so on. ANN should not be equal to 0, which means that none of the diagonal entries should be 0. AII should not be equal to 0 for all I. What is this AII? These are nothing but the diagonal elements of the coefficient metric. So in the Gauss-Jacobi iteration method, it is very much essential that the diagonal elements, once you write the system of equations in the metric form, the diagonal elements should be non-zero. That is how you should write the coefficient, the metric representation for the given system. Okay, so I will stop the section here. Tomorrow we are going to see two methods: Gauss-Jacobi iteration method and Gauss-Seidel iteration method. And if possible, we will also do some examples also. The plan is next two sections we are going to deal Gauss-Jacobi iteration method and Gauss-Seidel iteration method. And in the third section, what we are going to see is the convergence criteria and what is, so from the very beginning I am repeating what is the cost, the number of it will consume over time. So we will see that what is actually the cost and how one method is better than the other method. So that kind of comparison we will do in the third section. There, this unit will end. So 3 more sections, this unit is going to be complete. So that's all for today. If you have any doubts, you are most welcome. Thank you all.